let's just get this. Let's start. Okay, so we had a deal.
You decided not?
No, I didn't decide not to. We had a deal.
Okay.
You were going to fix an oil leak on the oil pan. I come to check on it. You take the oil pan off. You drain the oil. You put it back together.
Okay.
You don't change the filters. You do a half-ass job.
Okay.
Then, when we discover that we did a half-ass job,
okay,
then we talk about it. I told you that I'd think about it and I'd be back today to let you know.
And you told me that you have.
And you have $1,000 of my money on a deposit on the truck. Is that true?
I told you that I was going to.
So that's viewer Ricky Bobby. That is about 5 years ago. And this is at a Utah dealership. Looks like it was the National Buick GMC. And the title of his video is Lying Salesman, National Buick GMC. Very interesting story. And I'm going to try to explain it to you under California contract and potentially fraud law and stuff like that. So you get a kind of an understanding. Hey, what's going on? Yo, Christopher. So I want to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day before I get the day started. I've been at the gym and I got a little bit of a rash going on here. Don't know what the heck's going on. It's kind of windy outside. So one of those kind of things, but let's just go ahead and get this party started real quick.
To another edition of Ask Michael Ehline. This is where I teach people the law in an unorthodox manner by using examples that we see in the news, case law briefs, but it's all about exposing the Leviathan and its instrumentalities and taking back your rights. Know the law and mean to keep it well. Come here to learn from an expert to know your right. Make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because we never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and play this bad chicken from the start.
Oh,
What can I do for you?
you tell me about that truck or my money.
Oh, did they not refund it yesterday?
No, they didn't refund anything yesterday.
I'll get it refunded right now. I thought they were going to refund.
All right, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a narrative. So first of all, as you guys know, I teach people how to become lawyers on the California State Bar Law Office Study Program. I've also written a couple of books about it. And I just always enjoy teaching people because it also helps refresh my understanding of the law and gives me a better, well-rounded recognition of issues that may come up. And that's one of the things that's really good about the bar exam and the bar exam essay is it's a problem-solving speed exam. So issue spotting is one of the most important aspects and crucial aspects for any lawyer who's worth their salt. And being primarily, at least now, a personal injury practitioner, I always find crossover issues. And sometimes I'll have to refer portions of my case out to someone who is more experienced in that particular type of law. Don't get bored. What's up, KJP? And so anyways, long story short is it's basically malpractice, legal malpractice to ignore parts of your client's case that could be actionable that maybe you're not necessarily qualified to handle, or that you don't have the time to get up to speed to handle. So in those cases, you've got to be able to give your client proper notice and opportunity to how to handle those aspects of their case. And so this is one type of case that comes up a lot. Dealership fraud, breach of contract. We've handled several of these types of cases over the last 20 years. And sometimes there's a personal injury component attached to it, like a fist fight between the service people, right? There might even be a criminal part tied to it where I'm showing up on behalf of one of the victims to try and get criminal restitution for somebody who was beat up or injured by like maybe a drunk driver or a batterer at a car dealership or whatever. So someone's out driving your car from the dealership and they run someone over and now you're getting sued, that kind of stuff. So it always happens. Dealerships or stealerships. Yeah, that's a good one. So today we're talking about this guy who basically went ahead and put a deposit down on a car, according to him. And you're gonna see this in this video at this Buick dealership. And I guess as part of this deposit, he made sure to have them do some general maintenance. So he wanted to make sure that they would do some maintenance. He wanted to make sure that they would do some maintenance on the vehicle, like, clean the filters or, put fresh filters, fresh oil, that kind of stuff. And they didn't do it. So they did a crummy job. I think they just swapped the oil without changing the filters. Just half-assed nonsense that us guys would never do. Like guys my age, we used to change our own oil, right? You change the filters when you change the oil. I mean, a car dealership, give me a break. They should do that. So this guy's obviously upset. According to him, this is what happened, by the way. I'm just quoting, what he's saying and what the video is doing. And so my reaction, my lawyer reaction to this right now is this guy's not necessarily irate, but he's very upset. He's going into what looks like the service department. He's saying that I put $1,000 or something like that down on this truck, but I needed you to do some stuff to it. And I was so pissed off when the stuff you did was done wrong. I was in a bad mood. And I said, I will get back to you tomorrow to think about whether or not we're going to continue with this purchase. So they didn't give him his money back. They did not give him his money back. Don't get Zimmerman. And so now he's going back the next day because he's been calling and they're not answering or helping him out. And he's saying, what's going on with the truck? Did you fix everything like you were supposed to, like do the filters and all that other stuff? And this guy is kind of quirky, kind of a smart aleck, in my opinion, basically says we already sold this thing. And so the segue into this is one of my subscribers asked me to do a reaction video on dealership fraud, because I guess a lot of people get on my channel get screwed over by car dealerships. And I didn't know that. And because, contracts is part of any transaction pretty much at a car dealership, right? I thought this would be a teachable moment where I could teach all of my viewers. And, I know there's not a lot of people here today, but over the next few days or weeks, you have a point of reference now to go back where you can see a real life example of contract law in action, as opposed to some esoteric looking at a bunch of case law. And that's how I like to teach people. I think sort of almost like the Socratic method, but also teaching by examples and explanations, I think is one of the best ways to learn the law. And I think also there's Westlaw offers a series called In a Nutshell. I recommend that you get the contracts and remedies portion and torts nutshell series. They're really excellent. Yes, KJP. So let me just look in the sidebar really quick. I'm interested because I hate buying vehicles. They always have the upper hand. They sure do. And I actually know somebody who is like a guy who cuts out the dealership. He's a buddy of mine. And I've been able to get cars from him for way under market, and he still makes out okay. So those dealerships are making real money. But in this case, it looks like it was a used truck because he's asking them to change the filters. So that's the first clue that you get, right? And we're going to go ahead and just kind of like watch what's going on here, and make sure you kind of watch the way these guys look, like their faces. And these guys remind me of these cops in these Chili De Castro videos, right? When you watch these guys, give me a bunch of ones if you agree with me. When you watch these guys, they remind me, if they remind you of how cops behave at these traffic stops and First Amendment audits, give me a bunch of ones. But keep watching this. This is really important. I want you to pay really close attention. This video is only like 3 minutes. I want you to basically try to absorb as much as you can in, and then we're going to go back and we're going to break down what a contract is. We're going to break down what any defenses to formation might be, and things like that, and just kind of break it down, talk about dealership fraud and some other stuff. And I'll try to do it quick because I know it's Memorial Day, but I'm teaching my daughter how to do shorts and stuff right now. So I wanted to give her some raw material. And so, because I want to teach her how to be an entrepreneur, which I recommend in one of my other videos, talk about that, how you should try to homeschool your kids, teach them how to be entrepreneurs. But in the meantime, watch this.
I thought that's where you left it off yesterday.
No, you know damn good and well that ain't where we left it off.
That's where I left it off yesterday. I told you I wasn't going to hold the truck for a week.
I told you I'd call you back today, and I called you back today.
Okay.
You got $1,000 worth of my money on a deposit on the truck.
I'm refunding it right now. It was supposed to be refunded yesterday. So I apologize for that.
It should have been done before you did anything with the truck. Where's the truck?
Truck sold. It's gone.
So you sold the truck with my money on a deposit.
When you left the store.
No, when we left.
Okay.
When we left.
Temperature.
No, I'm not raising my temperature. Let's just get this. Let's start. Okay, so So we had a deal.
You decided not.
No, I didn't decide not to. We had a deal.
Okay.
You were going to fix an oil leak on the oil pan. I come to check on it. You take the oil pan off. You drain the oil. You put it back together.
Okay.
You don't change the filters. You do a half-ass job.
Okay.
Then, when we discover that we did a half-ass job,
Okay.
then we talk about it. I told you that I'd think about it and I'd be back today to let you know.
And you told me that you had.
And you have $1,000 of my money on a deposit
And I
on the
told you
truck. Is
that I
that
was
true?
going- I told you that I was going to refund it, and I'm sorry if they haven't done it yet, but it will be refunded right
No,
now.
you can't. How do you sell it? How do you sell a truck with somebody else's money on a deposit?
Okay. You did not sign anything for that automobile.
Okay, so did you guys all hear what that guy said? He said, and this is like one of the oldest tricks in the book. So he said, you did not sign anything, but he did give $1,000, and there was an understanding that the vehicle would be held, and he was not refunded the money. So I just want you to, I'm not making a judgment call yet. I kind of already know how I would rule if I was a judge already based on what I'm hearing. But then again, you always have to look at the local statutes for your state. Sometimes there'll be exceptions that aren't available in other states or at traditional common law and other things that may be at play in the statutes. So, for example, they may say you have to have a written instrument in order to hold a vehicle for a certain amount of time that is on a particular form, for example, if that makes sense. I'm not saying that that is the case here, but those are things that a lawyer should always look for. Now, really quick, I do see some questions in the sidebar, and I want to be a nice host and not ignore you people. Thanks for all the ones. Hi, Watkins Inc. Now, in California, the typical statute of limitations for a tort, which would be a personal injury claim, will typically be about 2 years. However, there are many exceptions, including government claims. Suing a government agency typically only allots you 6 months from the date of the injury or knowledge thereof to file a government claim on the proper government claim form. Failure to do so, not even using the right form, could be enough to blow you out and not give you the opportunity to sue a government agency. And we can get into that more later. Now, let me just see. Now, every state is going to have their own different types of statutes of limitations. That's why it's called a statute, because it's a statute. It's a state code section, for example, legislative enactment. And because of that, some states may only allow 1 year for you to sue for a personal injury. Now, there are also exceptions that apply. For example, if you were in a coma, that would mean that the statute wouldn't begin to run until you were able to recognize that you were no longer in a coma and capable of reconnoitering that you had an injury and being capable of being sued. If not, you might have to get a administrator appointed for you or a guardian ad litem, have a conservatorship established if you pass away, or to have somebody come and help you administer your affairs. All kinds of different things would come up with that. But we're getting a little bit too far off topic, but I wanted to throw out there that there are exceptions, like for minors. So if you're under the age of 18, the statute of limitations in California, at least, won't start running until you reach the age of majority. But in this particular case, you can see this salesman, he's rubbing his hands together. He is the atypical car salesman, and that's just how they are. And he's making legal arguments. And by the way, I'm making no judgment call as to the title of his video. I put it in quotations on purpose to show that this isn't my opinion of the dealership, because I have not seen any instrument or paperwork or any, this particular guy, Ricky Bobby's not my client. I've never met him before. I'm just reviewing this video because several of my viewers wanted me to take a look at it. I guess there's just not that many videos out there like this. And so I wanted to, and by the way, I think it's the only video this Ricky Bobby guy has. So clearly this was a really emotional thing for him to do. And so I'm going to try and do him justice by trying to be as neutral as I can. But assuming arguendo, the things that he's saying are true, I'm going to break down the legal reasoning as to what I think, the legal basis reasoning as to how I think this would go down if it was on a bar exam question, right? So this is like, one of those bar exam questions where they say X, Y, and Z, Jack and Jill went up the hill. Jack fell down. Jill fell down and broke her purse that she hadn't completely paid for, and she just signed an agreement that to make payments on it. Discuss, right? That's kind of one of those things, like a shotgun bar exam question. So these kind of videos are real cool because they'll help you start thinking like a lawyer real quick once you learn the basics. That's all you got to do is know the basics, and then you apply it to real life. Then it's just a question of, do you want to be a practitioner? Obviously, being a litigator is very helpful because you're actually doing real life applications and arguing stuff before a court, and it gets you really honed in. So let me see here. The best $100. Hi, Michael. Okay. Audit, Carolina. Okay. Absolutely. Carolina, I could even do if you want, I could do a live for you tomorrow if it's not confidential stuff. If not, I may go live with Alan Beck tomorrow. We're going to talk about his recent victory in Hawaii, where the state government basically is now honoring the Second Amendment with respect to knives and bladed weapons, which is really, really nice to hear. Now, let me just look at these questions really quick. And forgive me that I'm not playing the video, guys, but if I don't check all these comments, I'm going to lose them and not be able to respond. And I really like to be able to respond. I'm going to try to move my microphone to get better sound. So it may mute out for a second. So bear with me while I try to make it work, because I don't want to lose you guys. I just want to get better sound. Hopefully that's better for you. Give me a bunch of ones if you like that sound better. Now, what I'm going to do here is just really quick. I'm going to check this out. Stealership. So in this particular case, by the way, yeah, if you want to join me tomorrow, I may go on live with Alan Beck. Not sure about that, but maybe Carolina might want to come on. Now, back to this show. So this salesman is basically arguing that our guy, the plaintiff in this case, because I would be the plaintiff if I was the lawyer, and his dealership would be the defendant, and then the dealership would be vicariously liable through their agent. That's how it works, unless their agent engaged in what's called a frolic or a detour. Hope this is making sense. So in this particular instance, this guy right here is making representations on behalf of his company, because they always try to get out of it and say, well, some other guy told you. No, dude, it was your guy. He is deemed to be you. It's called master and servant, a vicarious liability. It's ancient. It goes back even further than common law, the law of the master and the servant. And there are all kinds of really great stories that I'd love to tell you. I just don't have the time about the history behind this, but it's designed to make sure that you're responsible for your people, just like a military unit would be. You know, you get crap goes up and downhill in the military. Roger that. That's how it works. And very similar in business. Corporations are set up very similarly. They even, companies, golf company. So there's very similar structure there. Let me just take a look here. Yeah. And I know, Carolina, I did see, I think a thing from you. Forgive me. It's my wife's out of the country, and I'm taking care of my daughter and all that kind of stuff. So it's just been a little bit crazy over here. And I've been working like a mad dog trying to get some briefs done. But so this is like the first time I've really had to come up for air. Hey, KJP, and then Watkins. Watkins Inc., there's no such thing as an ex-Marine. There's only former or inactive Marines. Because we're always, once you earn the title, you're always a Marine once you get that Eagle, Globe, and Anchor from boot camp. That's how you do it. Now, but I am interested in hear what you have to say, Watkins, but I want to get back onto our show really quick. And I definitely want to hear what Carolina has to say. Obviously, I want to hear what the people have to say, because Brick Jonesy says to give the people what they want. And by the way, if anybody knows where Brick is, please tell him to come, man. It just feels weird without having him here. Kind of sucks. Anyways, let's get back here and get this bad chicken rolling.
I did too. I signed the work order.
You did not buy that truck. There's nothing that has you as owner of that automobile.
when I gave you my $1,000 and you took my $1,000, that's not a deal. What is that?
And then when you come in and you say no,
let's say what is that? What is that?
That is us agreeing to terms.
So we agreed to terms. You took my money.
Yep.
We agreed to the.
Okay, so you saw that. The salesman agreed that this guy and him agreed to terms to basically allow that deposit to hold the truck for him to come back. He was just steamed because he paid these guys probably, and he gave him $1,000 down on this work order. which we're going to find out in a minute. And they tried to do a shoddy fluid replacement, right? And for all you wrench heads and stuff, you know what I'm talking about. You don't, when you change out the oil, you change out the filters too. It's just stupid to put, they just, we're doing a number on this guy, and he's an old hat dude. You could tell he probably in his day worked on his fair share of cars like we all did back in the old days, right? I guess it's the old days for us. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and play this bad chicken for you.
Terms.
Yep. And then when you
then you get to decide.
Don't raise your voice with me.
Don't you raise your voice with me. You get to decide.
Yes, I do.
And how does that work? What's your name?
My name's Kurt Spencer.
Kurt Spencer with National
I wish
Automotive.
BZ was here. What do you think, guys? Name and badge number. Do you see the parallels between the way these car salesmen act and the arrogant way a lot of patrol officers behave to auditors and people trying to exercise their First Amendment rights? I'm not saying that all officers act that way, but this is the stereotypical sort of, I'm in control and I'm kind of a snooty snob pointing my nose at you personality. And this guy's a paying customer, take a look at what he's having to deal with. Uncool.
Okay, Kurt Spencer with National Auto Plaza. How does that work when somebody gives you a deposit like that? How do we do that? What is the ethical thing to do here?
Lower your voice.
No, sir. What's the ethical thing to do?
Okay, what the ethical thing to do is we agreed to terms. You came in here, you decided, you're like, I want to think about things. And I told you yesterday, I said, no.
No, you didn't tell me yesterday. I wasn't even here yesterday.
Sorry,
I was here Saturday.
Excuse me, Saturday.
And when we left, we were going to call you. The deal was never not done. The deal was you did shitty work, and I know it, and
Listen,
know it.
Here's the deal. I have just as much opportunity to say no to doing business with you do as doing
not if you have my money,
sir.
Okay, so did you hear that? So this guy, look, I think he's right. I mean, I think that if he paid these guys a deposit, all things being equal and there not being some kind of an exception in the law, I think that this guy gave $1,000 with the understanding that $1,000 was going to be used to hold the vehicle, but they just needed to do the proper fluid change on the vehicle. That's what I think. And this salesman obviously just wanted to dump the truck and get a commission. He probably didn't like the old guy because the old guy was holding his feet to the fire, and this guy comes off really arrogant. I don't know. What do you guys think? Put it in the comments if you think that this car guy's kind of arrogant. It just sucks that people treat other people like this. It's really unfair. And that's why, and finding a good lawyer to go after people like this is even harder.
You have a deposit, sir.
We were refunding
but you didn't refund it.
Josh, will you please make sure that his
you did not refund it. And you, Miss, what's your name? Josh. All right, Josh, did we not have a deal?
Put a deposit down?
I put a deposit down on a vehicle. And so when you put a deposit down there, Mr. Salesman, what's your name? Trace.
But when you
all three of you know that I put the deposit down.
All right. So I just want to point something out. I don't know about you guys, but when I grew up, when I grew up, these guys are young men still to this guy. And this dude right here is sitting there. This is an observation outside of me being a lawyer. This is just having been reared to always try and be a gentleman and polite to people. These are young men. The guy is sitting down and he's eating his lunch and basically talking to this guy with his mouth full, like F you. That's the impression that I get. This is just really reflects poorly on this company, this business organization. And it makes me more likely, if I'm on a jury, to probably think that everything this old man is saying, if it's in dispute, is true. Is this making sense? If someone's not credible and they keep on spreading bad behavior like this and having this kind of a public image, the reputation is going to be such that everybody in the community is going to know, oh yeah, those guys are shysters, right, guys? Give me a bunch of ones if you think that that's what happened with used car dealerships over time. That's a case in point, right? Try to sell you a piece of junk, buy it for $20 and sell it for $1,000, So yeah, Mama Lion. So I hope you guys like this one today, because this is a viewer's request. This isn't me. This is somebody else saying they want me to go over the different contract laws. So let's finish the video really quick. And then I'm going to open up a slideshow that I prepared that breaks down all the elements of contract law. And that's going to help you guys kind of get it into your head. And then you'll be able to go back to this video and use it as a reference point for a future, you know, if you're going to take a bar exam, for example, this would be a good way to break down a bar exam question by watching this video. So that's how we'll do it. Now, we'll try to get as close as we can. I don't want to bore you guys too much, but I'm going to go ahead and keep playing this thing. Almost done.
You don't honor your deal. You don't honor your deal.
He gave you the opportunity.
You don't honor your deal. Is that true?
I'm done talking with you.
All right. So you kind of get the idea. That's what happened. This guy was just standing up for himself. He probably is a vet. That's the impression I get. I think this is a dealership in Utah, it's kind of surprising to me that these kids, I don't mean necessarily kids, but these young men were so sort of disrespectful to this guy. I mean, I would never be like that. If someone came into my business, you know, I would never let my employees treat a man like that, especially a senior, because I think you got to be polite to seniors because we're all headed that way. And everyone deserves to be treated for their wisdom also. I mean, the tribe's always appointed the wise people to be, because their experience and all the dumb mistakes they made that they don't have to make again. That makes them wise. So that's be a bunch of ones if you think that, hey, let's OTVO, right on, man. And here's a guy, let's OTVO, who has tons of wisdom. And I've had an opportunity to be able to talk to him about a lot of really cool things. And this guy's got a lot of life experience doing a lot of things. And whenever you run across, you know, the great, what do they call those? The silverbacks, you always got to be meek and humble with them, because these people were once young bucks, like some of us still are. And they deserve their place. And I always like to teach people that, aside from law. Now, so this is my contract lawyer reaction to the lying salesman at Buick GMC video by this customer. And so I'm going to just quickly go over some basic stuff. We're not going to go into everything under the sun, but under California law, whether a deposit and a signed work order constitutes an enforceable agreement for the purchase of a used truck depends on many factors. Now, obviously, you're going to have an offer and an acceptance, which we already saw in video. That's what took place. So it was a clear offer that if you pay me a certain deposit, we're going to hold on to this truck for you. And then that was accepted by the buyer because he signed a work order and he turned over money. Does that make sense? And that also steps into consideration. So in this case, consideration can be by money. It can be by an act. There's a lot of ways that consideration can be offered up, but essentially it shows that something of value, whether it's a promise, whether it's a promise not to do something like that, whether there's something of value, that's called consideration. I hope that makes sense. Give me a bunch of ones if you understand what consideration means now. It just means that somebody's essentially giving up a right to do, to not do, giving up something of a material value like money. So just give me a bunch of ones if you know what I'm talking about, and then I'll move on to the next one. Somebody do that. Hurry up, do it now, move. I wonder what kind of delay we have on these videos, by the way. Thanks, Kurt. So now, and then of course there has to be mutual consent. And here a defense from the dealership could be that perhaps there wasn't true consent because there was a misunderstanding as to the essential terms, because this guy's saying, the dealership guy is essentially saying, well, it doesn't matter that you gave the deposit, you walked away from the table, so we sold it. But the old man's saying, if I had walked away from the table, I wouldn't have been calling you. You would have given me my money back. And the disagreement was because of you guys doing a shoddy job on doing some basic stuff according to this work order, which says you're gonna hold this vehicle for me. All right. So it looks like there's mutual consent from the plaintiff's point of view, and that he thinks there were clear terms, and there's even an admission that they agreed to do this stuff. But then again, the dealership guy backpedals a little bit, just a little, and that may be because he realizes he's in a bit of a pickle with this old guy, and he probably shouldn't have sold this thing. Like this guy's not a meat guy and he's not going to go down without a fight. He didn't like that. It looks like. So basically there is a written requirement for the sale of goods pursuant to the Uniform Commercial Code. And, but in this case, a work order and a deposit could probably serve as evidence of an agreement if they include sufficient terms like price, description of the truck, and any other essential terms. And sometimes terms can be implied, by the way, guys. So course of action, course of conduct, that could be a potential term that's built in to any contract. It's just like, how you have certain people, you can always rely on them, or how they always just do a certain thing. Same kind of deal. You can rely on someone to be precise, prompt, people who have a personal sense of honor, who show up early, not just on time. Those kind of people, those are the kind of people. So let's see here. Now, in this particular case, the work order details would play a significant role in whether or not there was a valid contract to hold the truck. In any other case, the dealership may be able to argue that since there weren't essential terms in writing, that there was no way to prove that they were going to hold the truck, and that money could have been used for something else like repairs or some other thing that, who knows what they could make up. But in this case, this man was smart enough to be filming this. So it would be very difficult now for the dealership to argue otherwise if in fact what this gentleman is alleging is true, which is that they were supposed to hold the vehicle for him, that he gave money, and they didn't hold the vehicle for him. So the work order details obviously would be persuasive authority, however, that he had put money down on something, and clearly an oil change isn't $1,000. I hope this is making sense, because sometimes terms are implied into contracts because the courts are always going to favor upholding contracts as a matter of public policy, because it would destroy the economy if we were always fighting over and disputing contracts. So courts are always going to, so repeat after me, there's a public policy in courts favoring upholding contracts. So sometimes, unless it's very specific, courts will build in certain terms in order to uphold the enforceability of a contract, but not always. Now, let me see here. Hey, good seeing everybody again. Kurt Bronson, I really love seeing you, buddy. Hey, Watkins Inc., good seeing you still hanging out in there for me. Now, also, conduct of parties can show the existence of a contract. Okay, so me giving you $10 without saying a word, knowing that you sell hammers for $10 and that the normal way you do business is by me handing you $10 and you give me a hammer, that's conduct of parties. This is the way we always do business. Like your delivery guy, there's a way that they do their deliveries. There's a set protocol, right? So conduct of parties is always very important. Communications can show that, emails, the checks in the mail, that kind of stuff. Good faith also. Both parties have to act in good faith. And in this case, the old man could argue that the contract is unenforceable because it was procured by fraud, or that he was misrepresented or concealed. But in this case, he doesn't want to do that. He probably wants the truck. But since he can't get the truck now, since it's been sold, his probably only other real way to go is a breach of contract, misrepresentation, maybe a fraud or concealment type of allegation. And those would be, usually you'll take those from the jury instructions. So you'll look at the jury instructions and you'll put those into your complaint. And you want to include what I call a mixed bag pleading. You'll want to argue torts as well. You're going to want to argue fraud, misrepresentation, breach of contract, all that stuff. And that's called a mixed bag pleading. And you can plead all that stuff. And that way you don't commit malpractice by not pleading all that stuff. As long as it could potentially be a claim, then you should allege it, and they can file demurs and do a motion for summary judgment and do all that stuff. And if you're not able to prove it up, then it's going to get knocked out by the court. That's just the way it is. But some claims surely will stay in place, usually negligence and raw contract. But in this case, I think there's significant evidence based upon what the old man is saying that there was no good faith by the dealership And therefore, the court may favor upholding a contract by making the dealership get the truck back. It depends on who they sold it to. The court could order that they get the truck back to the guy or provide a truck of equal value. He could also sue for fraud and misrepresentation. However, he would have a different burden of proof, which is much more difficult. Clear and convincing evidence standard, which is very, very difficult standard. It's very close to the beyond a reasonable doubt standard in criminal cases. Whereas in a regular negligence case, preponderance of the evidence standard, which means just a little bit tilts in our favor and we win. That's your standard. That's a good one for us as lawyers who represent plaintiffs. But if you're trying to prove up fraud, you're going to have to do that clear and convincing deal. And that goes the same for punitive damages. And punitive damages are another story for another day, guys. But hopefully you got an idea of basically what a contract is. And basically a contract is offer, acceptance, and consideration. You make an offer on someone, or you engage in negotiations, and it's always going to be a little bit different. Sometimes it's going to be in writing. Sometimes course of conduct will be enough to show or imply the existence of a contract. And past course of conduct obviously is always important. Now, we don't know about the past course of conduct with this gentleman, but we know that he clearly stood his ground, and based upon what I saw, he was able to show that there was an existence of a contract, that they neglected doing the repair work or fixes or maintenance work on the truck that was earmarked for him with a deposit, and instead went ahead and sold the truck from under him. If what the old man is saying is true and it's not staged, it seems to me that the old man under California law would have a very strong case of dealership fraud, I guess, for lack of a better word. And there might be many other types. And by the way, if there's any lawyers in here, if you can think of any claims, I mean, obviously breach of contract, right? But I think misrepresentation, fraudulent concealment, negligent concealment, or intentional concealment being two of the subsections of that. And I think that you could really have a highly successful claim against somebody like that with that kind of evidence. Now, the problem is going to be damages. So, and this is something that I always like to share with people. Hey, what's going on? Here's the deal. What I always like to share with people is you want to always make sure that when you're bringing these things, that you understand that damages are a significant component of how you're going to win or lose a case, right? And so my back is really screwed up. All right. So the problem is this guy, it looks like it's an $8,000 truck or something. As I recall, I mean, I'll go back and watch the video again later and update you right in the comments, but I think it wasn't that much money. So what are his damages? Well, I don't think it's $8,000 because he'd be sort of unjustly enriched because unless it was because he was going to pay for the truck anyway. So he would be, so his damages, what would they be, guys? I mean, think about that. That's what I want you all to think about when you're thinking about bringing a lawsuit. There's no real personal injury. There's probably no duty owed to, it's just normal fuss in a contract dispute that there's going to get tempers raised, right? Now, if the guy pulled out a gun and started blasting, that'd be a different story, right? Then the guy at the dealership could sue the dude, and the dude's estate could sue the dealership because the dude probably would get taken out by a SWAT team, right? So, hey, Diesel, we'll get into all kinds of different ones, contracts and all that stuff. So Diesel's saying in the future he needs to touch on quasi-contract the government forces on you. I think that's a great topic. And we can. And we can definitely talk about that. So hopefully you guys understand now. So a contract is basically an offer. You engage in some sort of round table discussions, handshake, that kind of thing. And you accept it. You offer acceptance. So you agree to it. And then you give up something or give something in exchange. And sometimes that could just be a promise not to do something. Like, I promise not to foreclose on your car payment or repossess and foreclose on your house, your car, whatever, for a certain amount of time or whatever it might be, right? So a promise not to do something, a promise not to, that's consideration in exchange for me giving you partial payment today. Is this making sense? So I'm giving up something, you're giving up something. Like, I'll give you what I can today, but please promise me you won't repossess my car tomorrow. Give me some time till I'll get you more. This is good faith. That's what I want to teach you people. Don't just try to like ditch. Try to always find a way to resolve things, especially nowadays because the economy is so bad. People understand, and hopefully they'll try and work with you. That's what we want to see. I mean, a lot of, like I do mainly car accidents and motorcycle accidents. And I got to tell you, these motorcycle accident cases are the worst because these guys usually, especially if they're in law or if they're in any kind of construction, which most of them are, like in Texas, like oil rigs and stuff, they got to be strong. And now they got a back, messed up spinal cord, spinal fusion. You tracking me? It's a problem. So those guys really suffer in those types of cases. Does anybody have any questions for me? By the way, is everybody having a good, happy Memorial Day? Hopefully you guys are. Well, anyways, I hope you liked this little show. And then what I want to ask you guys, does anybody else have anything? So what I've agreed to do with my core, so I have core contributors, like the guys who are my actual core guys. They're like part of the contributors group or whatever community. I don't know how it works, but anyways, it's like that little private group. And so I'm getting stuff, and like this was one of them. And I think it's pretty cool. This video about this dude. Let me see if I can get it back up on the screen. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. No, never mind. Yeah, not going to happen. So anyways, this was a video about a guy who was an older senior citizen. He went into a car dealership. I think it was a dealership or a service center, and was given a hard time by the salesman who'd sold a car allegedly out from under him, where he had already put a deposit down, but it wasn't in a written agreement like the dealership wanted, right? Where they make those arguments, right? But he did have an actual service agreement, and, he didn't own the truck. It was being serviced so he could buy it, and he put $1,000 down. So, course of conduct, I think you guys could all see that would form a contract, and you can see how they kind of are trying to get out of it in their arguments. But based upon, if the factual scenario is correct, and this is what happened, based on my experience, knowledge, and skill as a lawyer, if I was a jury and as a lawyer, I would think that they should not have sold the truck out from under this guy. And I think that he was really upset, and I could tell they probably had already gone at it before, and they probably had some bad blood with each other, and that allowed this transaction to go south. And I think that happens a lot. And I think sometimes in order to be a winner, you just have to not get all crazy. And that's the best way to deal with these dealerships, because otherwise you're giving them artillery. And that's the same way when you do your audits, same exact thing. If you're doing a public servant audit and you're trying to do government accountability operations out there, you're going to always find yourself in situations where keeping a cool head is the order of the day, to keep yourself out of jail and to keep yourself safe, as well as to keep the officers safe too. I mean, everybody really, because once it becomes violent, anything can happen. I mean, there's just natural things, instincts that happen when violence erupts in all types of people. So let me see here if anybody has any questions here. If lawyers are so good, why are, well, Mikey B, here, I'm going to put this on the screen. If lawyers are so good, why is Chili in jail? Well, that's a great question. And I don't know about any of that stuff. Oh, that's really cool. Looks like I have Arma with Harmony is a new member. That is really cool. Let me put this up on the screen. 2024 Year of the Dragon. That's sweet. Well, I think that is really kind of you to want to join Team ME. Hey, Chevy, how's it going? Oh, look, somebody bought me Thanks, Alma with Harmony. Arma with Harmony. That is so awesome. Thank you so much. So I hope that you guys liked this format where we talk about like besides just cops all the time, because I know there's a real focus on doing police audits, but I just think there's so many other things out there. Like, for example, bikers, they get harassed by cops all the time. And I have a special place in my heart for motorcycle clubs, because they believe in utmost freedom and they don't want to be part of the system. And I have respect for that. And I think you guys should too. I think everybody should respect independence. If people want to be off the grid, I think more power to them, man. I think it's a major responsibility, but I think it's probably the most rewarding thing that could ever happen to these people once they actually do it. So, and thank you, Watkins Inc. Thank you, everybody, for their service on this Memorial Day. I always think of my dad. He did 2 tours in Vietnam, and he's the reason I joined the Marines. He was an 0848. So give a bunch of ones to the 0848s. Yeah, he was 3rd Marines. He was in a bunch of different units, but he was a legit Marine. He volunteered to go back for a second tour. You only had to do one. They were having to march people around Camp Pendleton, Camp Lejeune, and doing like junk on the bunk inspections. And he was a sergeant, march into chow. He hated it. He wanted to be back out in the field with the guys that he served with. I'll show you some pictures sometime, guys, of my dad. He was a tough Marine, man. He was at Khe Sanh during the Tet Offensive, and he was at Rock Pile, Gio Lin, Dong Ha, Dan Nang, Con Tien. He was all the different hills. Every hill you could think of, he was there. And he also went out with reconnaissance teams and also had to do forward observer. He was a cannon cocker, basically. But he was one of the smart ones, the 0848s. And yeah, really cool dude. I'll show you some pictures sometime. He's just super lean, Swedish guy, looks like a Viking. They used to get in fist fights all the time, had his eyes pulled out of his head, and the corpsman had to push him back in. Just unbelievable stuff, because these guys were just animals, getting shelled, like hours and hours and hours of shells coming in all day, all night, coming in on your position, a fixed position, right? Just unbelievable. Ammo dumps going up. And then my dad going out trying to do counter fire, right? And that was part of his mission. Really cool stories that I finally got him to open up about before he passed away. So let's see here. Yeah, that's really cool. Check this out. My granddad returned from the First World War, unlike his 2 brothers. Yeah. Is that crazy or what? Yeah. These guys were just animals, And when they come out, they're connected to. Yeah. So anyways, so I want to know what you guys think about the idea of, like, is there any other things, like, for example, the biker thing is cool because the cops are constantly harassing motorcycle clubs. And we know there's bad blood on both sides. I get that. But it's just an example of where there is a particular group of people who are really being clamped down on. And so that could be a police interaction, or just, for example, motorcycle safety videos where we look at motorcycle accidents. Because I would like to promote, because I just saw another accident a couple of days ago with a guy in a motorcycle, and I've dropped a couple of bikes, and it's unbelievable that how much damage it'll cause your body, you guys. Riding a motorcycle is no joke. And these, I think making a video about accidents where we're doing them not from the perspective of trying to show like, oh, an accident, but show like if you can see the accident and how it happened, break it down with the idea that we could promote, like teach you about the law. Like, okay, this is, here's the duty. This guy owed a duty to not run this guy off the road because he breached that duty. Now damages were caused because this guy got splattered across the road. And because he got splattered across the road, now there's bills and there's all this stuff. And then if he dies, it's a wrongful death. And we talk about all that stuff and kind of go into it from a lawyerly perspective so you can learn about it. So that's the kind of stuff that I think would be kind of fun. And this is a video that somebody sent me. So what I really liked about it is it looks like you guys liked it, is that normally I'll just pick some random video. So I really appreciate it when you guys send me stuff that you want to see. And just tell Merb that I'm always trying to give the people what they want. I'm not Merb. What's his name? Jonesy. Tell Jonesy that I'm always trying to give the people what they want. So let's take a look here. Yeah, it sure did. It always hurt when as a kid you fell off your bike. Imagine a motorcycle. Yeah, and it's not just that, it's that they're super heavy too. So if you can't get off that thing and it falls onto you, you're getting, 1,000-pound plus the inertia force and, any kind of G forces or traction those tires are bringing on. I mean, there's road rash. There's so many things that go along with this. And you usually are going to suffer catastrophic back injuries. You're going to lose a lot of skin. And even if you have a helmet, it's even if with chaps and everything, if it's the wrong kind of accident, you're in trouble. And so I really like promoting motorcycle awareness because the motorcycle community came out for my dad for his memorial because of, COVID shut down all the memorials. So these guys helped me do a ceremony at a gun range so he could give him a 21 gun salute. And it was really cool. So because of that, I became really close with a lot of the chapters with the Leathernecks Motorcycle Club, the original Leathernecks, the LMCI. And they're really good guys, and they've always stood up for my dad. And I was just at an event with them, I think a week or two ago in Conroe, Texas, and we'll do another one and hopefully in a couple of months. But we're always trying to promote awareness for PTSD victims and trying to get legislation passed so we can get the same benefits for the West Coast veterans that the East Coast veterans, like the Camp Lejeune guys and under the PACT Act, are getting. So that's kind of a pet project of mine that I'm working on as a result of the motorcycle community involvement, right? So I really want to do stuff that can maybe help promote awareness, because if we're doing a lot of these cool videos and teaching law, maybe somebody will watch these videos and, they'll pay more attention for motorcycles, because it doesn't take much to just look out a little bit better for them. Yeah, so hold on one second. And by the way, whoever is doing the sidebar edits, I do appreciate, your work, because it looks pretty clean and it's nice to be able to see that. Yeah, let me see this Vietnam one. Yeah, again, it is Memorial Day, so I know it's a little off. I mean, so you learned about the lying salesman video. You can go back and, check it out. I normally do a live stream for people who are new here and just talk to my friends who I've met on YouTube and stuff, and friends that are buddies from outside of YouTube. And we hang out here and talk and chat about law related stuff, because a lot of people want to learn about the law. And so here I am talking about it. And it also is cool because my kids get to see their dad doing this kind of stuff, like a little video production. And this gives them an opportunity to learn about how to become an entrepreneur. So I always thought that was a really cool thing about doing this, because if you can do your own gig and you don't have to work for someone else, isn't that the best? Give me a bunch of ones if you think working for yourself is the best, if you can do it. Yeah. What's up, Kurt Bronson? I support that for sure. Yeah. We want to have our own parallel systems outside of all these orchestrated, corporate leviathanic systems. And we want to have our own parallel systems where we can, flourish as humans, and not transhumans, but just human beings, be left alone and in peace and harmony with nature. Right, guys? Give me a bunch of ones. Natural law should be the way we think as humans, because we'll all get along better and the world will be a much better place. Yeah. So we've been doing this for about 54 minutes now, y'all. So do you guys have any questions for me? Anybody? Oh, hold on one second, guys. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back. Hey, sorry about that, guys. I hope you, I just had to take a really quick call, and I'm sorry about that. That was our friend, and I'm going to talk to him later after this live stream. But I really do appreciate you guys joining me, and I hope that you've been having a good time. And GMK is asking me if I've read Stephen's dissent on Heller. Well, we can have a talk about, hold on, what else? Where are you in Texas? Houston, but you know what, man, I'll go anywhere in Texas. So I'd like to get something in, I'd like to set up an office in Galveston. I just need to get local counsel to kind of help me out because I'm spread out. I'm going back and forth from California to Texas as part of my practice. So it becomes very difficult. Sometimes I'm going to need somebody to make appearances for me. And I don't want to have appearance attorneys. I want to have really strong relationships. So if we're able to branch out, it's going to be because we have the tentacle and that strong sort of relationship that I like to have. Because when you do business with someone, it's almost like a marriage. And you got to make sure it's going to work, you know? So if you got red flags already, don't do the deal, guys. Just back away. Just always be thinking that way, because that's basically what doing business is. And that's why it's really important to do business with people that you like and trust. And you just got to have that reputation that you can be reliable. That's the number one thing that people look for. So in addition to just talking about the law, you know, the law is also, natural law implies a duty that we're all going to abide by, a natural duty that we're not going to harm one another. And this is referred to as a social contract. And I know a lot of people don't like the idea of being bound by a social contract. Maybe we should call it something else then for those people who don't like that name. Maybe we should call it something else, like a code of decency or something, you understand, like an ethical standard. Because we know that like the best special operations units, the best people have strong codes and standards. You give me a bunch of ones if you agree with that. So the golden rule, never not use your phone. Tentacles like the specter. You know, and I really do love reading all y'all's comments. And I think Mikey B, look right there. That's what I think too. I think that 10 Commandments is pretty cool. And I think that's a pretty good standard if you can do it. And I think a really important one, like I was talking about earlier about this video, is the idea that that guy, he was a senior citizen basically, and they were treating him with total disrespect and disregard, almost like with utter contempt, right? Like that, nothing fires me up more when I see people treat an old guy like that. You know, he's probably an old warrior or something, and you got to give him his due. That's what you're supposed to do, in my opinion. I mean, give me a bunch of ones if you think that's normal to just treat senior citizens with respect. And I guarantee you, these people, those guys that are treating him like that, it's going to happen to them now. They're going to pay the price for what they did to him. They better repent pretty quick. Yeah, give me a bunch of ones if you think that karma is really bad. So let's take a look here. All right, so I'm trying to get Alan Beck to come on tomorrow, guys, and he is, you know, a really great appellate attorney, and he does Second Amendment and First Amendment law. And he is with my firm. And I'm super proud of him because I believe he is just an amazing appellate lawyer. And he's been kicking butt on Second Amendment stuff in Hawaii. And I got this really cool story that I want to tell you about how all this came down and how he was able to do this. But he's really become somewhat of a celebrity, and you'll see him on every kind of, he's everywhere now, man. Alan is all over the place. He's the man. So I'm going to try to get him back on here. And let me see what else. Just taking a look, see, guys. And I really do like what Mikey B is saying. Give me a bunch of ones about the 10 Commandments thing. That's really cool. Because really, if you can do that, you're really in a good spot. If you can, and there's other codes from, other cultures that are also cool. They're just as good. So it doesn't just have to be the 10 Commandments, right, guys? But the 10 Commandments are perfect. They pretty much nail it down. It's a really great way to stay safe. If you abide by those ethical guidelines, there's a high probability you're going to be in a good spot, right? If you think about that, like trustworthy, honorable person who's reliable. Anyways, so that's pretty much all I have to say. We kind of got an idea of what's going on. I'll have an update for you probably tomorrow or the next day about Chile. And I want to wish you guys all a really super duper Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully you guys can hear everything. And hopefully, you'll remember those people out there who went out there and put their life on the line. And some of them passed away in battle or related activities, maybe not necessarily at the front, but still nonetheless injured in a theater of combat, those kind of guys. Give those guys a bunch of ones. Now I may be at the Leathernecks bar. It's a historic bar. I'll let you guys know it's a historic bar. It's by the Strip, and it's like a museum, and it's the only thing of its kind on the West Coast. And they've got relics in there going all the way back to like the Continental Marines. It's like literally a museum that's also a bar. I mean, of course, right? Just what Chesty Puller would want, of course. And you can get the cheapest glass of beer, I think, of anywhere in Nevada at this Leathernecks bar. Now, hey, give me a bunch. Put it in the comments. Has any of y'all been to the the Leathernecks bar in Nevada? Just let me know. Because if anybody wants to meet over there, we could hang out. It's so the guy who owns it or runs it, his name is Ghost, and he's a biker guy, super cool Marine, tall guy, really, but he's a super duper guy. And they do the Marine Corps birthdays there, and they have the whole parking lot just filled with like over 1,000 people, huge crowds, almost like there's not enough beer to serve everybody, and everyone's having a blast. They have this huge like movie projection screen where they're playing like battle footage from like World War II. And they got like, it's being narrated by like Chesty Puller or some super badass general. And they got the Marine Corps music in the background, super inspirational, where you get like chills up your spine. Super awesome gung-ho stuff. Hey, what's going on, BZ? I was just getting ready to leave, bro, but it's all good in the hood. So we had a good time. If you get a chance to watch it, anybody who came in late, the first part, maybe 15 minutes of this live, goes into this really cool video of this old man who stood tall for himself against these sort of mean car salesmen or car service guys at this car dealership. I think that's in Utah. And I sort of applied some California basic contract law to it and threw a couple other things in there, like maybe there's some fraud and concealment issues that you could look at. Now, the one thing that we need to top off probably is damages. I don't see a whole lot of damages. Now, typically there might be statutory damages in some of these cases, you'll have those where you might have treble damages built in per particular violation. And attorney's fees sometimes get built in. So there's different ways that you can go depending on the statutes, but fraud statutes typically are going to give you the ability to get a little bit more. So treble damages would be like 3 times the normal damages, kind of a thing. Like they add 3 times on. So those are things you might want to look at. It just depends on the particular type of case. And yeah, I love seeing you, Kurt Bronson. And it looks like some people bought like a membership or something. I don't know, BZ, but I'm super happy. I think that's super cool. I was showing my daughter some of this stuff, how cool it is. And what a cool little project, right? For a young entrepreneur to learn how to build a channel and figure out like what it is that you want to do, right? Like what are the kinds of things that you like to do, and then go from there, that kind of thing. So, hey, Alan Hubbs, you know, I think they're all great. You know, I think 1% guys, they have their own code that they live by, and I respect that. And I think I've met a lot of them, and I've had uncles who were in 1% clubs, and I just think that, you know, they're just normal people, and if you treat them normal, they'll act normal towards you, but they have a code they live by, and you just don't cross their code, and they're good, reliable people. That's always been my impression, to be honest with you. You're going to have good and bad in every element of society, and no matter how good your club is or organization is, you will always have some issues that arise. It's normal. And when you have high testosterone and a bunch of strong men together, they are going to generally be a little bit more adventurous and bold. And I just think that's normal. That's just the way nature made it. Nature made that happen, not me. Right, guys? All right. Well, I'm really sorry that BZ was late to the punch, but I think this is super cool. And does anybody have any questions about what we saw tonight, about like maybe the potential damages that the old guy could get? Because, and no disrespect by saying old guy, okay? I mean, if he ever watches the video, sir, I don't want you to think that I was being disrespectful. The senior, I'm not really, but I'm just saying they're young and you're old. So, but not to be disrespectful, the gentleman, the older gentleman, I believe that he was given a raw deal. And I think that the damages would probably be maybe some fraud damages. I mean, what do you think? He was going to give, let's say he had to give $8,000 for the truck. Obviously, they got to give him his deposit back, or they could use that deposit towards a replacement truck and maybe give him a break for the inconvenience, the time, in exchange for him not suing, right? Because like generally what you do is you negotiate a settlement agreement where in exchange for party A not to sue party B, both parties, are not sue each other, or vice versa, right? Whatever the case may be, in exchange for this case going away. And this is the way we negotiate the majority, well, the way most personal injury attorneys negotiate the majority of their cases, is to try to negotiate something where both parties give up something and then the case goes away. And then there's damages that are paid to the different parties. And in this case, the damages that are going to be paid to the gentleman, the older gentleman, I mean, he already was going to buy a truck. So it's not like they're going to pay him $8,000. They would normally just give him $1,000 back and pay him some kind of nuisance damages, right? Unless there's some kind of a fraud statute or there is some kind of a criminal investigation by the state attorney general or the local district attorney. Because in a case like that, then they could, the victim in this case would be considered a victim now, right? Would be able to get restitution. So there's a lot of different ways that it could go, where the older gentleman could get some money, maybe a couple thousand extra bucks. So the question comes down to this. Will a lawyer take the case? And probably not. And that's the problem that so many of you people that I want to explain to you. It's so difficult. And that's why I think if you learned the law, especially for you retired guys, if you learned the law and learn how to do this stuff, you wouldn't need to pay a lawyer, and you could start making a dent in getting some justice out there to this world. I mean, an educated populace is the enemy of the great Leviathan. You know, that's what it really is. It's the enemy of the great Leviathan. Natural law means that we educate ourselves and we try and develop parallel systems where we look after each other. Give me a bunch of ones if you think that's a great idea. And I think that that's pretty much all I have to say. What do you guys want to know about before I hang up for the day? Yeah, go pro se. Well, sometimes that works. Now, keep in mind, Mikey, hold on. If you do go pro se, Mikey B, the issue is going to be attorney's fees. You can't get attorney's fees if you represent yourself in most cases in California anyways. So you always are going to have to hire another attorney to represent you if you want to get those attorney's fees. And that's just the way it's got to be if you want to get the attorney's fees. But if you just want to get basic justice, and you can look at the risk to benefit, right? Because that's the thing that I always have to tell people is I make my money from the cases that I don't take, is that the amount of energy you have to put into each case is virtually the same, that the burden of proof doesn't change regardless of value. And if the case doesn't have the potential to be able to help you cover your overhead and be able to survive while you're donating so much of that time, it becomes a situation where it's tragic. And so I think this is like my public service to everybody. At least I can teach you guys this stuff. And then when you have something that's really serious, you'll remember that at least I was a good citizen and exercise civics to try to educate my fellow citizens in stuff that nobody else wanted to give them the time of day. And so I hope you're enjoying yourselves. So, I've done quite a few of these dealership cases, man. They are such punks, some of these guys. I'm not saying this particular guy or this particular dealership are punks. All right. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that in general, these guys are punks. I mean, and if you guys have any more reaction videos you want me to do, like for dealership or even police ones, shoot them on over. I'll take a look. Go to the Michael Ehline website and just shoot them over to me, and I'll take a look at them. And if I can't do it, maybe BZ will do some of them for us too. You know, he's pretty good at that stuff, and he's better at editing than I am. I'm just the king of live stream. I just get on and start streaming and just like, because I got a lot of cool things to say. You know what I mean? Hey, Christopher. Yeah, man. Happy Memorial Day. So again, if anybody's going to be in Nevada, I'm going to try to make an effort to get out to the Leathernecks Historic Bar and Museum. And that's kind of over by the Strip. And there's a lot of cool Korean barbecue places and a lot of stuff like that around there. So you can come on and join us and have a beer, and we can pour one out for Chesty out in the parking lot and all that good stuff. And let's see. Yeah, so with that being said, make sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to save, because you never know when the thought police are going to take down this channel. I'll talk to you guys soon. Semper Fi, do or die.